Do you know that one simple thing you do every single morning could quietly raise your risk of a stroke without pain, without warning, and without a single clue from your body? You wake up, stretch, maybe check your blood pressure, your glucose, or your oxygen level, feeling proud that you're taking care of your health. But while you believe you're protecting yourself, your body might be slipping into silent danger. No dizziness, no chest pain, no signal at all. You feel fine until you're not. As a brain doctor, I've seen it too many times. Good, careful people who thought they were doing everything right. But inside, their blood was thickening, their pressure was spiking, their brain's fragile vessels were under siege. And it all started with the simplest morning routines, habits they thought were safe. The truth is shocking. Certain everyday morning tests and rituals that millions of seniors rely on can actually trigger strokes, form blood clots, and quietly damage your brain overnight. If you or someone you love is over 60, you need to hear this because the danger doesn't wait for symptoms. It waits for the next sunrise. Stay with me because what I'm about to show you could quite literally save your life. Before we dive in, if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you hit that button and turn on the bell so you never miss another health tip made just for you. If you enjoy this video, type 1 in the comments. If not, type 0 to let me know how I can make better content for you. 1. Morning home blood pressure check. The silent trigger that can turn a routine into a stroke. Every morning across America, millions of older adults reach for their home blood pressure cuff before the coffee is even poured. It's part of a ritual, a small act of control in a world where the body no longer listens quite the way it used to. You sit down, wrap the cuff around your arm, press the button, and wait for that familiar beep. The numbers flash on the screen, maybe a little high, maybe a little low. And in that moment, you decide how to feel about your day. Safe, in danger, calm, afraid. But here's the truth very few people talk about. This innocent morning habit, when done incorrectly or misinterpreted, can quietly trigger the very thing you're trying to prevent, a stroke. When you measure your blood pressure right after getting out of bed, before your body has had time to stabilize, your reading isn't telling the full story. Overnight, as you sleep, your blood pressure naturally dips. It's how your heart and brain recover. But as dawn approaches, your body begins what doctors call the morning surge. Hormones like cortisol and adrenaline rise sharply to prepare you to wake. Your blood vessels tighten, your heart beats faster, and your pressure climbs. In a younger person, the arteries can handle it. But after 60, those same vessels are stiffer, narrower, less forgiving. That surge can be powerful. And when combined with dehydration, poor sleep, or medication errors, it becomes a perfect storm for clot formation. You might think, it's just a number. I'm just checking. But imagine this. You sit up too quickly, wrap the cuff around your arm, and measure while your muscles are tense, your legs dangling, your heart racing from the effort. The reading flashes high, 170/90. You panic. You skip your morning walk. Maybe you even double your medication just to be safe. But what you don't realize is that your heart rate was up because your body hadn't adjusted yet. Within an hour, your pressure drops too low. Blood flow to your brain slows, and the same fragile arteries that once endured decades of work can no longer compensate. Blood pools, thickens, and in those still morning hours, it forms a clot. Small, silent, deadly. A clot that can travel upward, lodge in a narrow artery, and stop oxygen from reaching your brain. No pain, No warning, just confusion, slurred words, or a heavy arm that won't lift when you wake from your nap later that day. As a neurologist, I've seen it too many times. Seniors who thought they were managing their pressure, but were, in truth, unknowingly creating dangerous fluctuations. The brain is delicate, man. It depends on steady, consistent flow. Each sudden rise or fall, every skipped or doubled pill, chips away at that stability. The arteries respond by constricting, the blood by thickening. And over time, the quiet ritual of checking your pressure the wrong way can become the first domino in a deadly chain. It doesn't just measure risk, it can create it. So before you trust those numbers, make sure you're doing it right. Sit quietly for 5 minutes. Rest your back. Keep your feet flat on the floor and your arm at heart level. Use a proper upper arm cuff, not a wrist device. Take 2 readings, 1 minute apart, and record the average. Don't panic at a single high reading. Patterns matter, not moments, and never adjust your medication without your doctor's advice. Because sometimes what we believe is protecting us may be the very thing pulling us closer to harm. The blood pressure cuff on your kitchen table is not your enemy, but misunderstanding it can be. And if you think that's unsettling, wait until you hear about the next morning test. The one that seems harmless, even helpful, but quietly thickens your blood each night and fuels the stroke you never see coming. If you're still watching and finding these insights helpful, please comment number 1 below to let me know you're with me. Now let's move on to point number 2. 2. Morning fasting glucose test. The hidden blood sugar trap that can quietly set off a stroke. For millions of older Americans, that tiny drop of blood on a test strip is a daily ritual, a quiet test of control, a small act of discipline before the day begins. You prick your finger, watch that red dot bloom, and wait for the machine to blink its judgment. 98, 115, 142. You tell yourself what those numbers mean. Good day, bad day, maybe I need more medicine. But what if I told you that your morning glucose reading, the one you rely on so faithfully, might be lying to you? Worse, what if it's quietly triggering strokes by the way you react to it? You see, as we age, our bodies change in ways most glucose meters can't explain. Overnight, while you sleep, your brain still needs fuel. The liver releases sugar to keep your body running, guided by hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. This natural surge, called the dawn phenomenon, causes blood sugar to rise in the early morning hours, even if you haven't eaten. And it's not a mistake, it's biology. But here's the danger. Many older adults see that higher number and panic. They skip breakfast, they double their medication, they push their body and already fragile then into dangerous territory. When blood sugar drops too low, the heart races to compensate. Blood vessels constrict to protect the brain. That narrowing, that sudden stress is not harmless. In those early hours when blood is thicker from mild dehydration and blood pressure is beginning to rise, this rapid change can form clots in vessels already weakened by time. Those clots don't always stay put. They can travel, block flow, and starve the brain of oxygen. That's how small morning mistakes become catastrophic strokes by noon. And there's another side, one even more deceptive. Some people have the opposite problem. Their glucose looks normal in the morning, even low. They assume they're safe. But what's happening beneath the surface is called the soma-GA rebound. During the night, their blood sugar drops dangerously low. The body panics, flooding itself with stress hormones to raise it again. By morning, the glucose meter shows a good number, but the damage has already been done. The heart has worked overtime, the blood vessels have constricted, and relaxed again and again, and the blood itself has become thicker, stickier, more prone to clotting. It's easy to see how this happens. You mean well. You're trying to do the right thing. You test every morning because you care, but no one tells you that the number on your glucose meter is just a snapshot, not the full story of what your body endured overnight. No one explains that the brain's arteries, already less elastic after 60, can't handle those swings in sugar and pressure. Each drop and spike, each stress hormone surge chips away at your vascular health until one morning you wake not to numbers on a screen, but to words you can't form, a hand that won't move, a future forever changed. So here's what you can do to protect yourself. Never adjust your insulin or medication on your own based on one high or low reading. Keep a log. Notice patterns. If your morning numbers fluctuate wildly, ask your doctor about checking your blood sugar at 2 or 3 a.m. for a few nights. It may reveal what's really happening while you sleep. Eat small, balanced meals. Avoid skipping breakfast and stay hydrated. Your brain depends on steady energy and steady flow. Because it's not the number that kills, it's the reaction to it, the overcorrection, the panic, the swing. That's what forms clots. That's what triggers strokes. And if you think your glucose meter can deceive you, wait until you hear about the next morning test, the one that was supposed to protect your heart but can quietly turn your blood into a weapon against your brain. 3. Home INR test, the little machine that can save your life or silently take it. Every morning across America, thousands of seniors living with heart conditions prick their finger, place a drop of blood on a tiny strip, and watch a small machine flash a number, their INR. For those on blood thinners like warfarin, this number feels like life itself. Too high, and you could bleed. Too low, and your blood could clot. You breathe easier when it's in range. You panic when it's not. You may even adjust your dose yourself, just a little, thinking you know your body better than anyone else. But as a brain doctor, I must tell you, that little screen can be both your guardian angel and your greatest danger. Because when used incorrectly, it doesn't just give false reassurance. It triggers strokes. It forms blood clots. I've treated patients who did everything right, at least they thought they did. They bought the home INR machine their doctor recommended. They tested faithfully every morning, proud of their consistency. But what no one told them was how fragile that process really is. The quality of the test strip, the temperature of the room, even the way you squeeze your finger can change the reading. A number that looks perfect might actually be dangerously low, while a number that seems too high could be the machine's mistake. And when you base your next pill on that wrong number, your life teeters on a razor's edge. Here's what happens when the INR dips too low. Your blood thickens, its flow slows, and your platelets, those tiny cells that form clots, start sticking together like wet sand. If you already have stiff, aging arteries or a bit of plaque in your carotid vessels, it's the perfect environment for a clot to form. That clot doesn't always stay where it starts. It can travel upward, lodge in one of the brain's narrow arteries, and within seconds, a stroke strikes silently. No pain, no warning, just confusion, slurred words, a numb hand that won't obey. I've seen it again and again. People who trusted a single morning test that whispered false security. And on the other side, when INR is too high, the danger shifts. Your blood loses its balance, unable to clot when needed. A small bruise can become internal bleeding. A harmless nosebleed turns into an emergency. But perhaps the cruelest twist is what happens in between. The constant swinging from thin blood to thick, from too safe to too risky. Every swing strains your delicate blood vessels, damages the lining of your arteries, and stirs inflammation inside your brain. Each swing leaves behind tiny scars, invisible but cumulative, the kind that steal memory and balance long before a stroke ever shows its face. Most seniors don't realize how small mistakes add up. A test strip past its expiration date, a machine stored too close to the bathroom sink where humidity ruins the sensors, a rushed test before breakfast when blood flow is slower, or a skipped calibration that throws off every number for weeks. These aren't rare mishaps. They happen in kitchens, living rooms, and bedrooms every day. And the cost is measured not in dollars, but in independence, speech, and memory. If you use a home INR machine, learn how to do it right. Store it properly. Replace the strips on time. Always confirm strange results with your clinic before changing your dose. Let your doctor see your log, and never assume one number tells the truth. Warfarin is powerful medicine, and like all powerful things, it demands respect, because the line between protection and danger is thinner than the drop of blood on that strip. One wrong adjustment, one false reading, and the machine meant to save you could instead betray you, silently, in your sleep. And if you think that's frightening, wait until you hear about the next harmless morning test, the one that millions of Americans use to check their heartbeat, but can quietly send their brain into chaos without a single warning. If you're still watching and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 1 below to let me know you're here. Now let's keep going with point number 4. 4. Single lead home, ECG, the heart check that can quietly betray your brain. Every morning, somewhere in America, a senior sits at the kitchen table, slips 2 fingers onto a small silver pad, or presses their smartwatch against their wrist. They wait for the green light to blink, a soft chime, a reassuring message, normal rhythm. It feels like safety, proof that your heart is still beating steady, that you've beaten the odds another day. But as a brain doctor, I have to tell you the truth. Few will say out loud, that little device, that one lead ECG you trust so completely, can be dangerously misleading. And when it misleads you, it doesn't just cause worry, it triggers strokes. It forms blood clots. It starts with good intentions. You want to protect yourself, to catch something early. You've read about atrial fibrillation, the silent, irregular heartbeat that causes 1 in every 5 strokes in older adults. So you check your rhythm each morning, proud that you're being proactive. But here's what no one tells you. A single lead ECG only shows a small piece of the truth. It's like reading one word from a book and thinking you understand the story. Your heart's electrical signals are complex. They move in waves across chambers through tissue that changes with age, medication, and even the way you breathe. A single lead ECG can miss fleeting episodes of atrial fibrillation, the kind that happen while you sleep or last only minutes. The device might say normal, when in reality, your heart has been stuttering all night long. During those missed moments, blood slows in the upper chambers of your heart, swirling like a lazy river behind a dam. That stillness is dangerous. It lets red cells stick together, forming a tiny clot, silent, invisible, waiting. Then, sometime between your morning coffee and your afternoon nap, that clot can break loose, travel upward, and lodge in a narrow artery of your brain. That's how a heartbeat you never felt can become a stroke you never saw coming. And sometimes the opposite happens. The device flashes possible AFib when your rhythm is perfectly fine. Fear grips you. You skip your walk, stop your medication, or double your dose of blood thinner. You tell yourself you're doing the right thing, but these sudden changes can destabilize your circulation, causing blood pressure swings and dangerous bleeding. The heart, especially an older one, hates chaos. What it needs is balance. And when you chase numbers or panic over single readings, you create the very instability that your brain cannot afford. Technology is a gift, but only when it's used with wisdom. These devices are tools, not oracles. They can help detect patterns, but they cannot diagnose your future. If you use one, let it be your early warning system, not your decision maker. Share every irregular result with your doctor. Ask for a full 12 lead ECG or a Holter monitor if you feel dizzy, short of breath, or unusually tired. True diagnosis comes from continuous expert evaluation, not from a tiny square on your wrist. Because what you don't see, what your watch can't feel, can still be killing you quietly. A skipped beat here, a thickened blood there, and suddenly everything changes. It's not the technology that saves you, it's how wisely you use it. And if you think your heart monitor is the only morning test that can trick you into danger, wait until you hear about the next one. A test so simple, so common, that it sits on nearly every bedside table in America, silently distorting the truth about your body's oxygen and leading you straight toward the stroke you never expected. 5. The pulse oximeter, the little device that lies while your brain suffocates. Every night, millions of older Americans go to bed believing that the tiny glowing ring on their finger or the small plastic clip on their bedside table is watching over them, their silent guardian. You slip it on in the morning, watch the numbers flicker 97%, 96%, maybe 95%. You exhale in relief. I'm fine, you whisper. The number says so. But as a brain doctor, I have to tell you something that may shake that comfort. That little number, that blinking reassurance, can be dangerously deceptive because a pulse oximeter doesn't always tell the truth. And when it's wrong, it triggers strokes. It forms blood clots. Here's the chilling reality. A pulse oximeter measures the oxygen saturation in your blood, but only in the fingertip. It assumes your circulation is strong, your hands are warm, your heart steady. Yet, in older adults, especially those with diabetes, heart disease, or poor circulation, that assumption often fails. Cold fingers, trembling hands, dry skin, they can trick the sensor into showing a falsely high reading. So while your device shows 96%, your brain might be running on 88% oxygen or less, and you wouldn't know. You'd go on with your day, or worse, your night, unaware that your brain is slowly starving in silence. Low oxygen levels, even mild ones, are no small matter for a 70 or 80-year-old brain. When oxygen dips below normal, blood vessels constrict to protect vital organs. That narrowing increases blood pressure and slows flow in the small, delicate vessels that feed your brain. Over hours or nights of this silent struggle, blood becomes thicker, stickier. It's the perfect recipe for clot formation. And once a clot forms, it waits until a sudden rise in morning blood pressure, a deep breath, or even a small movement sends it upward. Within seconds, that clot can lodge in a brain artery, cutting off oxygen entirely. A stroke born from silence. But there's more. Many older adults use the pulse oximeter as their reassurance that everything's fine, especially those who snore, wake up tired, or have been told they might have sleep apnea. They check their oxygen after waking, see a decent number, and dismiss the warning signs. What they don't realize is that sleep apnea doesn't starve you of oxygen when you're awake. It does it when you're asleep. You could spend hours each night gasping, your brain dipping into hypoxia again and again, while your morning reading still looks perfect. By the time symptoms show confusion, forgetfulness, morning headaches, the damage is already underway. The tiny vessels that nourish your brain have been through years of suffocation, inflammation, and clot risk. The saddest part is that many of my patients never knew. They trusted their device more than their own body. They ignored the fatigue, the dizziness, the restless nights, because the number looked fine. But the brain doesn't care what the screen says. It cares about oxygen, real oxygen. So if you rely on a pulse oximeter, use it wisely. Check your readings when you're calm, warm, and still. If your numbers ever dip below 94%, or if you often wake up tired, gasping, or dizzy, ask your doctor about a sleep study. You might not need another gadget. You might need oxygen at night or treatment for sleep apnea. And that difference can save your memory, your balance, your independence, your life. Because the danger isn't in the number. It's in believing it blindly. What you can't feel, what your little screen can't show, can still be killing you slowly, one night at a time. And if you think that's frightening, wait until you hear about the next morning test, the one that tempts millions of seniors to stand too fast, test their limits, and unknowingly send their blood pressure crashing or spiking right before the stroke that changes everything. 6. The morning standing test. The dangerous habit that turns every sunrise into a stroke. Risk. It seems harmless. You wake up, swing your legs off the bed, and stand. Maybe you do it quickly. You want to get the blood moving. Maybe you've been told it's good to test yourself, to see if you feel dizzy, to check whether your heart is strong enough for the day. Many older Americans do this every morning without thinking twice. But as a brain doctor, I have to tell you, that quick standing test, that moment when you rush from bed to feet, can quietly become one of the most dangerous habits of aging. Because when your blood pressure and circulation can't adjust fast enough, it triggers strokes. It forms blood clots. Here's what really happens in those first 10 seconds after you stand. During the night, your heart rate slows, your blood vessels relax, and gravity pulls blood into the lower part of your body. When you rise suddenly, your brain, which needs a steady stream of oxygen-rich blood, is momentarily deprived. In younger years, your blood vessels would tighten instantly to push blood back upward. But after 60, that response becomes slower, weaker. The vessels don't constrict fast enough, the heart doesn't pump as strongly, and blood pressure drops sharply. It's called orthostatic hypotension, and it's far more dangerous than most people realize. That sudden fall in pressure isn't just what makes you dizzy. It deprives your brain of oxygen, even if only for a few seconds. And in those moments of reduced flow, tiny blood clots can form. Your blood thickens as your body struggles to compensate. Your heart races. Your vessels constrict erratically. If you already have hardened arteries, dehydration, or take medications that lower blood pressure, this roller coaster effect can create turbulence inside your vessels. It's that turbulence, that chaotic movement of blood that encourages platelets to stick together. Over days or weeks, those microscopic clots can grow. One morning, they break loose, and in the span of a heartbeat, they travel to the brain. Suddenly, you can't speak. You can't move your arm. You can't even call for help. I've seen it too many times in the emergency room. Patients who collapsed in the bathroom or kitchen moments after standing. Their blood pressure didn't just drop, it overcorrected. After the fall, the brain demanded oxygen, and the heart, trying to catch up, spiked the pressure. That violent swing, down, then up, tore through fragile arteries, triggering bleeding or a clot. It happens quietly, often without witnesses. A fall, a bruise, a headache. And by the time help arrives, the damage is already done. The tragedy is that it's preventable. If you're over 60, never leap out of bed. Sit first. Breathe. Let your legs dangle. Flex your ankles and move your toes before standing. Give your body the 30 seconds it needs to balance blood flow. Drink a glass of water before bed and another when you wake. Dehydration worsens these drops. And if you often feel dizzy or lightheaded in the morning, tell your doctor. You may need a medication adjustment or compression stockings to help blood return to your brain faster. But don't ignore it. Dizziness is not just aging. It's your brain begging for oxygen, a silent warning before catastrophe. Because what feels like a small wobble today can become the stroke that steals tomorrow. So the next time you rise from bed, remember, slow is safe and safe is alive. Don't test your strength by standing too fast. Test it by living long enough to enjoy another sunrise. And if you think standing up too quickly is dangerous, wait until you hear about the last morning test, the one that starts with good intentions, a handful of pills, and ends with a single missed dose that can send your blood pressure spiraling toward disaster overnight. If you're still watching and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 1 below to let me know you're here. Now let's keep going with point number 7. 7. The morning medication check, the missed pill that can shatter your brain before sunrise. For so many older Americans, every morning begins the same way. The gentle clink of pill bottles, the slow pour of water, the quiet routine that keeps the heart steady and the blood flowing. It's a ritual of survival, one you've performed thousands of times without a second thought. But what happens on the day you forget? Maybe you're running late. Maybe you feel good, so you tell yourself, one day won't hurt. Maybe you plan to take it later, after breakfast. But as a neurologist, I've seen what one missed dose can do. And I say this with all the seriousness in my heart. It triggers strokes. It forms blood clots. Your blood pressure and heart rhythm follow a rhythm of their own. Through the night, they settle, dipping gently to let the body rest. But as dawn approaches, the body begins to stir. Hormones surge, blood vessels tighten, and pressure rises. It's called the morning surge, and for younger arteries, it's harmless. But in older adults, with vessels already narrowed and stiffened by decades of wear, that natural rise can become deadly. That's why blood pressure and heart medications are often timed for the night, to hold those numbers steady through the early hours when most strokes happen. But when you skip that dose even just once, the protection disappears. Your blood thickens, your pressure spikes, and your heart begins to strain. In that vulnerable window between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m., when most of the world sleeps, your brain becomes a target. Imagine this. Inside your arteries, blood flows like a river through a narrowing canyon. The medication you take each night acts like a dam control, steadying the flow, keeping it smooth and gentle. Skip it, and the gates fly open. The current becomes wild, pounding against fragile vessel walls that can no longer stretch. The turbulence churns your blood, making platelets cling together. Within hours, a clot forms, small, silent, lethal. It may lodge in your carotid artery or travel upward until it reaches the brain, cutting off oxygen. You don't feel it happen. You simply wake up different. Your hand won't move. Your mouth won't form words. Your world forever split by one small forgotten pill. I once treated a man named Harold, 72, a retired electrician from Wisconsin. He'd been careful all his life, his tools neatly labeled, his medicines lined up like soldiers. One night, after a long day, he forgot his blood pressure pill. Just one night. The next morning, his wife found him slumped against the kitchen counter, eyes open but lost. The scan showed a clot in the left side of his brain, a blockage formed during the early hours, when his unprotected blood surged through his arteries unchecked. Harold survived, but he never spoke clearly again. His wife told me through tears, I didn't know one pill could do this. But it can, because every pill you take, every small act of consistency is more than routine. It's protection for your brain. It's the difference between waking up whole and never waking up the same. So if you take medication for blood pressure, heart rhythm, or blood thinning, take it faithfully. Use a pill organizer, set alarms, ask a loved one to remind you. Do whatever it takes because your brain's safety depends on it. And now that you've seen how these 7 simple morning tests, done with the best of intentions, can quietly lead to blood clots, pressure spikes, and life-changing strokes, let's bring it all together. Because what you'll learn next could be the most important truth of all, not about the dangers, but about how to finally sleep, wake, and live in a way that protects your brain for years to come. Final wake-up call: how to protect your brain before it's too late. You've just learned the hidden dangers behind 7 everyday morning tests, small habits that millions of older Americans perform in the name of health, but that can quietly invite harm instead. Checking your blood pressure too soon, misreading your glucose, trusting a faulty INR machine, believing your smartwatch, relying on a false oxygen reading, standing too fast, or skipping a single pill. Each one seems harmless, almost routine. But for an aging brain, these little mistakes can combine into something far more dangerous. Over time, they disturb the delicate rhythm of circulation, fuel clot formation, and set the stage for the stroke that steals everything without warning. It triggers strokes. It forms blood clots. Here's the truth. Few doctors say plainly. Most strokes that happen in older adults aren't random. They're preventable. They're the result of habits, small, familiar, and comfortable, that no one ever warned you about. The morning is the most fragile time for the human brain. Blood is thicker after hours of sleep. Pressure rises sharply as your body wakes. Dehydration sets in. Hormones surge. And if, in that critical window, you skip a pill, test the wrong way, or trust a number more than your instincts, you give the stroke its opening. But it doesn't have to be that way. Protecting your brain starts with awareness, with slowing down, thinking before acting, and respecting the incredible machine that has carried you through a lifetime. Take your readings, yes, but take them wisely. Record patterns, not panic. Hydrate before you rise. Sit before you stand. Never adjust medication without your doctor's guidance. These small choices, these acts of patience, are not weakness. They are power. The power to stay independent, to keep your speech, your balance, your memory, your very self intact. Because here's what experience has taught me after decades as a brain doctor: your life doesn't end when you lose your strength. It ends when you lose your awareness. Knowledge is your greatest medicine, and prevention is your most powerful cure. Every careful breath, every glass of water, every measured choice you make in the morning gives your brain another chance to thrive. So tonight, when you set your pills beside your bed and prepare for sleep, remember this: the way you wake tomorrow can shape the rest of your life. Protect your sleep, protect your morning, protect your brain, because it's the keeper of every memory, every word, every moment that makes you you. These lessons are meant to inspire you to live fully and authentically. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Take a moment to reflect and share one thing you've learned and plan to apply in your own life. Let's support each other on this journey toward embracing these truths. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment with one. If not, feel free to comment with 0. Your feedback means a lot to us. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content like this. Thank you for watching, and here's to living life on your own terms.